Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge. Yep, I just did that because I'm a little weirdo. It's great. But today I'm not going to waste any time because we have a lot of books to get through. So one thing that I fell behind on, and I was very sad that I did, but just the other day I was going through and organizing some of my reads for the year. You know, we're getting up to the halfway point in the year already. What the hell? And I'm going to be doing a video that's all of my favorites so far this year. But a video I've been making every little bit recently is ranking the last few new releases that I've read. And I've done that 3 or 4 times now, and you guys really like it. I really like it. One of the things that I do just with me as a reviewer is I really try to read as many new releases as I can so that I can, you know, share them when they come out, vet them for you guys. And also, I like getting early copies of books. I think a lot of us do, and it's one of the perks of being a reviewer is, yeah, it can be a lot, especially when you're like me and you have no shelf control and just say yes to everything, because there's the books that people solicit me to read or offer to send, or, you know, are like, I think you would match with this, blah, blah, blah. And then there's the ones that as a book lover that I want to get my hands on too, right? And then I also just have some that I didn't have ARCs for. I just read them on my own, and I read them close to the release date. So that's what we're going to be going over. I have 41 releases from, which ended up being for April and May. Yeah, there's a lot. I have 41 new releases that I will be ranking for you guys. So we'll start with, which I actually have one that is a DNF. We'll start with a DNF and go all the way up to my 6 stars. I don't make the whole ranking sheet or like graphic that people make. I don't have the patience or the time to do that. This is just my own little personal ranking that will go from the least liked to the most. So yeah, we're gonna get started. I have my notes done very crudely down here, but we're gonna start with one that I DNF'd, and we're going to work our way through. And then I will have links to every one of these books down below. A lot of these books, as I said, are from authors who, you know, sent me their book as a gift to get me to read it, to share it with you guys. A lot of them are small authors. We even had a couple debut authors on this list. So if any of them interest you, please check out the link down below. You'll be helping both the channel here, because it is an affiliate link, and you'll be helping the author, of course, by checking out their book. So let us get started, okay? So the one that I DNF'd, teased this enough, which you guys know I do not DNF too often, or enough that I make it an official DNF, right? I'm not afraid to DNF. I just am very selective about what I read. It might not seem that way because I read a ton, but I know if I'm gonna like a book or not, right? Like, I don't go into any book thinking it's gonna be a 2-star or less, you know, I just don't. And so when I get far enough into a book that I've decided to DNF it, you know that there was some stuff that was pissing me off, right? Because otherwise I can usually tell right away if a book isn't for me, and I'll DNF it, and then I don't really talk about it because, again, I don't like to, you know, spread negativity about authors, especially, as I've said, a lot of authors who've sent me their work as a gift. I still will always be honest with you guys, and so if I'm not liking it right away, I just kind of move along so that I don't have to blow up about a book. Now this one though, I picked of my own. I did not ask for an ARC. The author didn't solicit me. I was kink hunting, right? That's what we call it, right? So I make a lot of my oddly specific videos, both for taboo, kinky recs, oddly specific recs, and you know, you guys will ask me for certain kinks, and it takes me a long time to put together some of those videos because they have to be books not only that have the kink we're looking for, but I still want them to be books that I would recommend to you. So that can take me a long time, you know, so when there's certain kinks someone is asking for, like I'm still trying to put together a sounding rec video, I still want to put together a lactation rec video, but to find enough books that not only have the kink, but I also stand by them is difficult. So someone on Instagram, the Instagram posts get me as well, right? Of course they do. I spend a lot of time there. Said that this one had lactation kink, it had slight daddy kink, it had a whole bunch of kinks. There was water sports in this one, and I was very interested to see if that would work for me or whatever, which surprisingly the way that water sports was used in this one, which if you don't know is involving urine. There's not another way to say it. It's involving urine. Not one that I will be making a video for. But I don't shy away from it being in a book like I used to, because I have read it done well a few times. Okay, again, I'm going on a long tangent for this. Anyway, there was all these kinks that were listed, and so my little kinky antennas go up, and I'm like, okay, I need to try this book. And this book was called, I probably have put it up already, I should. It was called Possession by BJ Alpha, or Daddy's Possession. It had 2 different names. And this was supposed to be a dark, kinky, erotic mafia romance, and I hated it. For all of that explanation, that's all I'm going to go into with this one, because I already did a very detailed reason of why I hated it, and I'll link that up here. I know, I'm such a cock tease with it, but I mean, I'll tell you, it didn't have to do with any of the kinks. It had to do with this heroine basically just being stolen, but yet not. She's basically kidnapped and forced to be a guy's nanny, and again, I can roll with that. I like some of those things. But the male main character shoots a man for not even flirting with her, but for talking with her, and shoots this man in the head in front of his child. Not just in front of the heroine to like teach her that she's his. In front of his child, he shoots this man in a jealous rage. Again, the man is one of his men talking to her. And I was just done. Like, I was okay with some of the kinks. I was like, I don't love this, but as long as it's like a 3-star, I can recommend it in this video I want to do. No, I didn't. There was no reason for that violence in front of his child. Like, seriously, if the child had been asleep in another room or had been with someone else, I maybe still could have went going. But the second he shot that guy in front of his child, I was like, we are done, sir. We are done. So that was my DNF. I despised this book because of it. And again, if you want more in details about the plot and stuff, because whatever, you can check out my week 21 wrap up. I talked about it. Okay, there was 2 books I gave 3 stars. The first one was, actually both of these were anticipated books. So this first one that I gave 3 stars was Fine Print Volume 2 by this man. I am not going to try to pronounce his name. It is from a different country, and I have no hope of pronouncing all those consonants together. It just isn't happening. But this is one that I was looking forward to. I read Fine Print Volume 1 many years ago, not many, maybe 2 or 3 years ago this came out. It was supposed to be like an erotic comic book. It has to do with the gods and making deals with them, and there's this woman who's just been broken up with, and she wants to be like fucked by a sex god or whatever, and she ends up being in a pickle or whatever. And I was very intrigued by this. It is loosely, I think, kind of based on a few different myths. And I was okay with the first one. I thought it was great. And I have been waiting. This one, for the longest time, didn't even have a release date when the next volume was coming. And finally, I saw it pop up on my Goodreads because I was following the author for when there would be updates. And so I bought it when it came out. And I'm very sad that I bought it because since it was a graphic novel, and it color one, and I bought it on my Kindle, it cost me $10, and I hated it. And I used credits to buy it, so to return it, I wouldn't get my credits back, so that sucks. So yeah, didn't care for that one. I don't even really have much more to say about it, but I probably won't be continuing this series because I just don't care for most of the characters. All right, then the other one I gave 3 stars was By Frenzy, I Ruin. So this one isn't super, super new. It came out, I think, 2 months ago now, but it is a newer release, and it was one that I was highly anticipating. I just couldn't get to it as soon as I want to. I did not have an arc for this one, and it turned out being good that I didn't. Which it is always funny to me. I got picked for one of Cora's arcs, maybe 2. I think I did have the last Chronicles that I got an arc for. And then maybe I did. I don't even remember. And then I think I did for Dangerous Innocence. But either way, it's fine because I really didn't like this. I talk about this one in my Mafia Romance Readathon vlog because I did vlog that for you guys. But I'm just so divorced from Cora Riley and what she has chosen to do with characters I love so much. And I just can't get past it in a lot of ways. over it. And the decisions that she made for Nevio and Aurora, to me, just number one, don't even make sense. And number two, the way that she neutered and muted her first generation of characters to have their kids be able to act like this, I don't buy it. I don't believe it. I don't stand with it. Okay. They're not my characters, but those characters are some of my favorites of all fiction. And for them to be neutered this way and to let their little shit of a son get away with some of the stuff that he does, I refuse to believe that Rainbow wouldn't have tied this kid up and put him on a desert island for a while to get his shit together. Okay. I refuse to believe it. Okay. Remember, not getting too angry about stuff. Moving on. All right, now we have some books that I gave 3.5 stars to. So this is where we start to enter the zone of like, not really. I'll save the really for more. I enjoyed the book. I found things that I liked, more things that I liked than didn't like, but 3.5 stars kind of the lowest rating for me, where there was still things I liked about it, because when I rate a 3.5, I will still round up to a 4 when I read an arc that's like it. So just kind of giving you the context, because when we go over some of these, you'll see more what I mean. So I gave 3.5 to Slay King by Abby Glines. This one was the follow-up to Slay, and this is a mafia cowboy romance, and I won't spoil the whole setup for this one because this is a part 2. So this is a series, but like 1 and 2 are a duet together, and actually the third one just came out, and that's about a different couple. And I may continue with this series eventually. I read arcs for both Slay and Slay King, but I didn't sign up for the arc of Sizzle, I think is the next one, because since I only gave this one 3.5, I was like, I'm gonna stop asking for that. And her books, she is pounding these babies out too. So I just have such a full schedule that I was like, not loving it. But this one disappointed me in the choices that the heroine made. And there was just like, the hero needed to grovel more. But at the same time, I don't think he needed to grovel for the reasons the heroine wanted him to. Because like, he's in the mafia. There's secrets he's kept. He's taking care of her. And it just, the choices, it didn't make sense. And it was also a book that it didn't need to be 2. You guys know how I feel about that. It didn't need to be 2. This could have been a standalone, like, beginning of a series, the way you usually see it, you know, standalone within a series. And I just didn't care for it. So, yeah, we didn't need that. Next, I gave Ruthless Savage by Lillian Harris a 3.5 star. So this is the first book in her Irish series that spins off from, I think they were the Italians. And this one is a bodyguard romance. I think he's 18 to 20 years older than her. I can't remember. Sorry. And this is a poor girl who she's been engaged off to 2 different guys so far, and neither of them have been good options for her. One of the men she was originally engaged to is now her brother-in-law, so that didn't end up too bad. But this heroine, she's still very young, and she's in love with her bodyguard, and he actually ends up going to jail for something, and she has been pining for him while he's in jail. So when they get him out of jail, he doesn't have to stay there for very long. When they get him out of prison, she wants him, and he's like, but we can't be together. It's not going to work. It's inappropriate. And he is dead set on the fact that they can't be together. And the thing is, it's not just because he's her bodyguard or is 20 years older. It's because he has damage. Okay, he has a lot of damage. Why they can't be together. You know, there's reasons. And I'm not saying he's totally wrong. There is people that he's pissed off before. But also, her family is one of the most powerful mafia families, and they are in an alliance with the Italians. So you think that they could maybe keep her safe. But, you know, we continue the pattern of a third act kidnapping and all that jazz. Also, there was a part of the plot that got revealed that made some things almost comical, and I was like, this story doesn't need to be comical. So I really enjoy Lillian Harris. She writes very intense couples, but this one was just like, it didn't quite get it there for me, and I've read better. Okay, I've read better by her, and that's mostly why I was like, not so much. All right, then we had one that here's a real example too of like, I gave this a 3.5, but I did thoroughly enjoy myself. It's just, it was missing a lot for me at the same time. So this is Hidden Empire by K.L. Mann. This is another one. I did a very in-depth review of it. I'll try to remember to tag the weekly wrap up for this one, but I describe this as like new adult mafia, okay? It ended up being much lighter than the first like 3 chapters would lead you to believe, okay? It starts very dark. Our heroine is in a very abusive home. Her mother has mistreated her, and she actually has like killed her mother's boyfriend, or maybe he didn't die. I don't think he died. I can't remember, but she stabbed him when he was trying to attack her. And she gets told by her mother, because her mother is like fed up with her for fighting back, for goodness sakes, and tells her that she's actually the daughter of I can't remember the last name of them, but I think his name is Mateo. Anyway, she is actually the daughter of a mafia guy who already has 10 sons. I think he has 10 sons, but no daughters. And the mom is like, haha, when your father finds out about you, he's going to kill you. So anyway, through something, she ends up on her father's doorstep. And not only does her father not want to kill her, he is fucking thrilled that he has a daughter and welcomes her into the family. And all of her older brothers like her as well. And so she's brought into this big happy family. And once she's brought into this big happy family, she's told that they actually go to a mafia school. And now that she's a part of them, she will get to go to this mafia college as well. And she does. And when she gets there, literally her first day, she sees this hunky Bratva guy and decides that he's the one for her. So from there, this goes completely bonkers, but it was great. I actually really liked this location. I liked the school. I loved all her brothers. So there's a few things I would want her to tighten up. This was way too long for what it was. It really was. I know it was an intro to a series, but there's ways it could have been tightened up. And the romance, like, there was not an ounce of tension in the romance, besides the fact that her family might be annoyed about it, and they're very protective brothers. But for how that was played off, it was not as big of a deal as I thought it would be anyways. But again, I had a great time with this. And so if anyone likes mafia schools and you don't mind it getting a little bit wacky, there was a lot of aspects that were very sweet about this. And I would, if she made this into a series, because the author is like, it's not for sure going to be a series, it depends on how many people like it, I would continue reading it because I think it could only get better than this. So see, this is an example of a 3.5 that, like, I rounded this up to 4. I will still recommend it in videos, but there's some weaknesses. I just think you need to be aware of them going in, and you might have a fantastic time. I know one of my friends ended up reading it off of my recommendation. She gave it 5 stars because she just was on the ride and didn't care how wild it got. And I was like, respect. Sorry, talking too much and too fast, so I need a drink. All right. Then we had Abyss by Swati M.H. Actually just read this one. Just talked about this one in the last week's wrap up. This was a best friend's dad romance. It had office elements. Of course, it's in an age gap. It was really grumpy hero. There was some good things, but where this one fell apart was how much of an asshole the hero was before he got nicer. And then the conflict was just absolutely stupid. The heroine was dumb. And again, I go more into detail on that in my weekly wrap up. And then the last one that I have at a 3.5 is actually kind of a bummer. I just finished this one. It's Fall With Me by Brooke Montgomery. So unfortunately, I've kind of been liking these books less with each one. And I don't know if it's that thing that happens where, like, an author has the best idea for the start of a series. And it's like she created all these brothers for the heroine in the beginning. And it's like they each need to have a book. And she had big plans for what would happen, and I don't think that she's playing them out the best. So this one has an amnesia trope in it. It has enemies to lovers. It has, she's a barrel racer. He is a trainer / he handles the breeding and the, like, stud stuff that happens on the farm. And for half of the book is what it takes until the amnesia trope comes in. And her reason for hating him, I'm not saying he's completely unfounded, because her reason for hating him isn't something that he did to her. It's on behalf of someone else in her life. And so, I mean, I know I hate no one as much as the people who've wronged my loved ones. You know, if they've wronged me, I'm a little more forgiving, but not of my loved ones. But the pacing of this was just whack. You know, it took us so long to get to the amnesia part. And then once the amnesia happens, their romance goes from 0 to 60 so fast. And it was not good to me. It was not good. This was also, I think, the shortest one in the series. And this is the one that I think needed more time because I just didn't buy their romance by the time that it happened. It also was the least sexy of all three of them too, which I was a little bit sad about, you know, because I've been liking it. So anyway, all right, on to the 4-star reads. All right, now we can get into some that I will have liked all of these. So going back to the top of my list here, there was All My Love by Daisy Jane. I have not shut up about this book until since I read it. I can't wait for the next one. This series is called The Twisted Sisters, and so there's 3 sisters. But because I've talked about it ad nauseum on this channel, I won't go into full deep dive of this one. As I said, we have over 40 books we need to get through in this. This one was very kinky. It has a lot of kinks that I love. That's why it showed up in a lot of videos. There's some stuff that's done with a toothbrush that you might not be expecting. Just saying. This is a single dad, neighbors, age gap. She's the stalker. And this was just sweet as pie, okay? This was sweet as pie, but a little crazy because she's a little crazy, all right? But sweet crazy. You know, there's no other way to say it, y'all. There's no other way to say it. Then there was Till All the Seas Run Dry by Eliza MacArthur. This is in the Elements of Pining series, and this was the follow-up to Soft Flannel Hank. This one is a vampire and a silky romance. They are fated mates, and they have been torn apart from each other for hundreds of years. And they discover each other at the very end of Soft Flannel Hank, and now we get to see what tore them apart and if they can forgive each other, because they both made mistakes that kept them apart all this time. So can they forgive each other and move on to happiness now, right? We hope so. This was very beautiful. Again, the pining is so sweet in this one. I got a little bit lost in some of the paranormal elements of this one, I do have to say. This one went a lot heavier into those than it did with the first one, because with the first one, since Hank is a normal, it was just a little bit, there wasn't as much info dump as we had to get with this one. But I really liked it. I look forward to whoever she pairs together next. All right, Forgive Me for My Sins by Angel Anders. This is a priest romance. There is some cheating in this. The heroine has an abusive older husband, and he's cheating on her, and she catches him in literally the first chapter of this book, and she decides she wants a little bit of revenge. And when she sees the hot new priest who has moved to the parish, she can't help but do a little flirty flirt with him. Now, this priest happens to be a reformed bad boy, and her and him get assigned to work on a charity event together, and as they spend more time together, they start to fall in love. Now, I really loved this one. This was a debut novel. I think this one was great. If you love priest romance, but you don't want it to feel too taboo, I think this is a good one, right? There's no holy oil used for anal in this one, right? As Sierra Simone would take us to. And I found this to be a very sweet romance between the two of them. It is hot. I am not saying it is a pure and clean thing, but there was very low angst in this. And the reason I say that is that in typical priest romances, it is very difficult for the priest to decide to leave. And I'm not saying it isn't still a difficult decision, but for this priest, I mean, just to tell you, once he comes to the point in the story where he decides he is in love with this woman, it isn't just a passing lust that he should repent for and move on. He takes the steps to make it work. And I loved that, okay? I loved it a whole lot. So I very much look forward to the next one in the series. I think Angel did a great job starting it off. And I think there's going to be 3 or 4 books in the series that are all about different temptations. And it's a friend group. So the hero in this one, he actually has a friend group that are going to be who it's about. All right, then, blip, 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 there is Aurelia by Minerva Spencer. This was the 4th book in the Bellamy sisters, and this one was very interesting because this is not the wrap up to the series. She has 3 more books coming in this series, which is wonderful. She didn't have previously the like pre-orders available for them, so I think a lot of us thought she was going to be done with Aurelia, but she actually, what was I going to say about this? Blah, blah, blah. She actually will be having a Christmas novel. It won't just be a novella because it has a lot more of the perspectives in it, because all of the siblings are going to be together again, and there's going to be a bit of a time jump that will set up the last 2 books in the series, because there's still the 2 youngest siblings who do not have pairings yet, but they're a little bit too young, so we need to have a bit of an age up. So anyway, sorry, I got distracted from this, but this one is about Aurelia, and we've been wondering about her throughout the series, or at least I have, because we knew that she got a job being a illustrator for this wealthy man's book. He is a, what does he do? A naturalist. He's a naturalist, and she is illustrating the book that he's making. And he's a bit of an eccentric lord, and she is there not only to do that, but also, I mean, well, I guess that is mostly why she's there. She's going to be there for a year's time. And so during this year that she's there, we slowly get letters from her about what's happening with her sisters. So this book actually starts right before the first book starts. And so she doesn't know that her family is starting to marry all these dukes and earls and stuff. So she's actually went to get this job because like she needs money. She's the oldest sibling and the family is in trouble. And so we see through the letters, we catch up to current time with this one. So this was okay. She really based this one off of a Gothic novel, and in doing so, she actually said like this one has the least amount of them together on page. She kind of falls in love with him a lot while he's gone on different trips that he takes. And I mean, I know that's a certain style, but one of the things that I love about a romance is there's that romance rule. You get the people on the page together as soon as you can, and you have them stay together as much as you can. Like that's kind of a rule in romance, in the same way that like a play is like that. You know, you come into a scene as late as you can and you leave as early as you can to keep everything moving. So this is actually my least favorite in the series, but I did not hate it. I still loved her. I still loved the hero in this one. He is definitely broody, and he's a scarred hero. He's actually attacked by I think it was a panther, killed his wife, and then maimed him. So it's a whole thing. So yeah, my least favorite, but I love her, and that is not the last time Minerva Spencer will be on the list, for sure. All right, then we have Older by Jennifer Hartman. This was her most recent release. I got this one signed when I went to North Iowa Book Bash. This one is a best friend's dad romance, forbidden obviously, and it takes place in the 90s. This book takes place, I think the first one is 92 is the first scene. Let me see. 95. It starts in 95, which I thought was a cool little twist on it. It doesn't feel super dated, except for the fact that like cell phones are not readily had in the beginning, and there's not all the internet and everything to keep an eye on people, let's just say. But this was good. It's extremely angsty, almost too angsty at times for me, which is why this one's a 4-star. But God, just look at how beautiful it is. And a lot of my fellow romance booktubers just gobbled this book up. So please don't take my opinion as gospel for that one. I think that there's a lot of good that went with it. Angst is a fickle thing for me. I've said this, I have an angst to an HEA meter, and it's always being weighed for me. And sometimes if the angst tips the boat over, I'm out, like I can't do it. So there's that. Okay, then there was Seeing Red by Bailey Hannah. This is book 2 in the Wells Ranch series. This was a surprise baby. This was a surprise baby, and it is his baby, or is it not his baby? I think it is his baby. I can't remember. I think it's his baby. And Red is seen as kind of like the family fuck up, and she isn't even sure that she likes him. She sleeps with him to get revenge on her ex, and then they're having a baby together. And the reason why this one was a 4-star for me, even though this has a lot of stuff that I like, this had some really cute, hot, kinky things that I like. I love pregnant sex, honestly, and I love getting to see the hero be a new dad and all that jazz. But what I didn't care for is how hard of a time the heroine gives him when he is nothing but an eager golden retriever who literally will cook her dinner every night, rub her feet, give her the orgasm she needs. He will do everything for her. And it takes so much for her to decide that he's worth it. And I just didn't love that. Okay. I feel like she should have had to grovel a little bit for all the shit that she put him through. But still, overall, very fun. That's why it's a 4-star. I listened to Wild River by Laura Pavlov. This was actually my first from her. I already have the arc for the next one in the series, and I can't wait. This one's just a small town, kind of enemies to lovers, dad's friend. Though there's not a huge age gap between them. There's like a 10-year, but like her dad's friend is actually like a younger than her dad. He is a lawyer. She is a psychiatrist. She comes to town to help out when her dad is sick, and she's really fighting not to get sucked back into her toxic, like a mother and brothers. Her parents are divorced, but coming to town for her dad means she also has to see the other members of her family. Very, very sweet one. Their Last Resort by R.S. Gray. This was a fun little summer romance. It's taking place on a island resort, and there happens to be this like slight animosity between the events coordinator and one of the like assistant director there. And then there is a storm on the island which forces all of the crew, or not the crew, but all of the staff to bunk together, and they end up getting stuck together in a room for a couple of days when the power goes out. So fun little, that was a quickie. The audiobook was really good. Enjoyed it a lot. Then we had Shattered Vows by P. Rain. This one is a second chance romance. This is also based on Rapunzel. She had run away from their wedding years ago, and he finds her again just when she's about to marry someone else and kidnaps her on her wedding and brings her to the home and is going to force her to stay there until she falls in love with him, and then he's going to break up with her so she can see how it feels. You can see how that's not the most original plot you've ever seen before, but I'm really enjoying this series. I'm really liking Piper Rain, actually. I've read quite a few of this duo's books so far this year. Because the next one that I gave 4 stars to was The One I Left Behind. This is their contemporary duo author name. And this one is the beginning in a small town country romance series, which everyone and their mother is writing these days. But these ones are a second chance romance. They were high school sweethearts and things went sour. She ended up having a kid that wasn't his with someone else. And now he's back in town after retiring and they have to figure out how to make it work. I also had an ALC of this one and I had a good time with this book. All right, then there was Drunk on You by Nikki Ash. This one is a fake fiance, and then they find out they're actually competing for the same job within her family company. So there's a lot of like back and forth. There is also a lot of anal sex in this one. So this is a spicy little one. It was also quite funny, and I was lucky enough to get a copy of this sent to me from the author. So thank you very much to Nikki Ash. I'm looking forward to continuing this series, but there wasn't anything super special about it, hence why it's a 4-star, but very enjoyable. Sometimes it doesn't have to be completely over top, right? And then the last one that I gave 4 stars to is A Taste of Whiskey by Melissa Foster. There was a lot of drinking ones this time around that I actually read that have to do with alcohols. So this one was a friends to lovers. He's in a biker club, but he's also a psychiatrist. And there is Redemption Ranch. I think that's what it's called. It might be called Whiskey Ranch. I don't know. Her family runs this place that does like therapy and second chances. And they both work there. He's a single dad, and so they want to be careful and not rush their relationship. Okay, I realized I missed one. I knew this was going to happen. I missed one that I gave 3.5 stars to. This one was After the Shut Up Ring by Kate C. Wells. I talked in depth about this in a weekly wrap-up, why this one didn't work for me, and a lot of it had to do with the angst versus HEA. This is a woman who is a runaway bride at the beginning, although she's supposed to be marrying the mother or the father of her children. He completely humiliates her on the wedding day, and she is like, you know what, this is the last straw. I can't put up with this. I can't marry this man and tie me and my girls to him this way forever. And so she leaves. And then the romance later on ends up being between her and her best friend's older brother, who has actually been patiently waiting for his chance with her for years. So super pining. The other wrench in it is that she actually has HPV, not HPV. Is it HPV? It's herpes. She has a form of herpes virus that was given to her by her ex, which is awful. And it adds quite a bit of shame to her that should not be hers to hold. So that is obviously not why I didn't like it. I loved that part of it, but I just wanted more where she got to be happy with Brandon at the end instead of all the agony that we were put through. Okay, moving on to the 4.5 stars. So each of these, when I share them, they'll be that one little thing that made them not quite work, but these are basically 5 stars. I round 4.5 star ones up to 5, so consider them a solid recommendation. We have Sir Yes Sir by L.L. Ash. This was a dad's best friend. She is in her early 20s, still lives at home because her family kind of pressures her to be there when her father's military buddy is injured and he needs a place to convalesce. And he doesn't have any family, so he goes to his buddy's house to do this. And she is now in close proximity with her childhood crush, is now living there. And this is a fairly angsty romance. It's fairly angsty, but also we do get lots of time with them being happy together. We just have to see how her dad is going to react when he finds out, right? It's going to be a bit tricky. There was Mafia Devil by Mila Finelli. This is book 5.5 or 4.5. I think it comes after, okay, this comes after Mafia Target, but you can read it anytime after Mafia Target if you want to. And this is a quick little romance between is it a fashion designer or is he a model? I can't remember if he's a model or a designer. And then a mafioso who's having to hide who he is. So they have a fling together and like they want to like keep it going, but it would be very dangerous for our normal if he gets swept up into everything. All right, then there is Just This Once by Lena Hendricks. This is the first book in the King family spinoff, which spun off from the Sullivan family series. So this one is about, I can't remember his first name. It went out of my head, but this is a chief's daughter romance. So the fire chief, his daughter is back in town after, I think it was after a failed relationship or she lost a job. I can't remember which it was, but she's back in town. And these two actually have a one-night stand before they find out who each other is. And she really, really does not want to be with a fireman again because it didn't work out the last time. So this one was mostly perfect, except for the way that they both react when they find out who they are to each other was just ridiculous. A very touching part of this. The heroine was actually adopted by her stepfather, and there's some really beautiful scenes about him and between him and her that I just swooned for. I loved it so much. Okay, then there was, oh yeah, big dog right here. There was Brutal Ambition by Sam Mariano. This is a standalone in the Coastal Elite series. I still recommend that you wait until you've at least read Contempt. You could read this before Surrender or after, but I highly recommend you've at least read the first 3 in that series, is my advice, okay? But this one is about a secret society that is happening at a college that a lot of our characters are now going to. And this one we have Bryn, who goes to a Halloween party, and Killian, who is at this Halloween party as well. And this is the same Halloween party that takes place in Surrender. And she is actually going to be used as a virgin sacrifice, not by Killian, but by a competing secret society. And he rescues her, but not because he has such compassion in his heart. He doesn't want this competing secret society to cause problems for all the secret societies. So he doesn't really rescue her out of any like hero complex. But nonetheless, he does become her hero, but then he forces her to stay at his home for a while because the people who were going to kill her know where she lives. And he's like, it wouldn't be that smart of you to go back home, you know? There was Chasing Wild by Kristen Proby. This was book 2 in her Wilds of Montana series. This one is about Chase, who is the cowboy cop of the family, and our heroine is a florist. They've been friends for many years. He actually has asked her out before, but she said no at the time because she'd just gotten out of a relationship that just took a lot out of her. And now it's been a few years. He's been quietly pining and biding his time. And at the beginning of this, there's someone actually who tries to break into her home, and so she calls 911, and who should show up because he's one of the only few cops in town, but Chase. And now, you know, he's really trying to help her out with this, who is stalking her and that kind of stuff with it. But their relationship is very low angst. It's a friends to lovers. They finally decide to give each other a try. And it's cute. Like, there's nothing to dislike about it. The Wild Man by Alex Grayson. This one, I've said, this is a Tarzan retelling. Our heroine goes to the mountains and woods to try to get, she wants to get photographs of this wild man who supposedly lives out there. And what she doesn't know is that this wild man is also watching her and decides that she's the one who's meant to be his mate. So this one starts off very dark. I will say that. There is literally non-con. He does rape her. That happens to her. But it morphs into something sweeter. If you can get through non-con and it feeling very uncomfortable and you maybe feeling like you hate this guy, I ended up really liking him when we find out his backstory and when we get more from his POV and we understand what he understands and like why he's taken her and these things. Okay. I ended up being okay with it and liking it quite a bit, but you have to decide what that line is for you. But I will say, like I said, it starts dark, but once we reach a certain point, it's very much not anymore. And I recommend this book to people who liked Love in the Wild by Emma Castle or Transcendence. Those kind of stories. I think you'd like it. And you know if you'd like it. And again, if you can handle reading non-con, give it a go. All right, there's Savor It by Tara DeWitt. I had a really good time with this one. This is a chef who is also the guardian of his niece. His sister has recently died and he's the one who's her guardian. And he goes to this small town in Spoons, Oregon to like get a business set up that his boss like owns there. And he doesn't want to be in this small town for very long, but he thinks it could be a good reset for him and his niece. And then our heroine is actually his next door neighbor. And she is just this quirky, fun, small town gal. And I really like these two together. They end up pairing up to help each other with a few different endeavors. Let's just say, my mouth's getting tired, so we got to move it along here. There is The Pleasure Protocol by Darcy Romaine and Kat Alexander. I've been talking about this one a lot lately. This is a debut for both of them, and this was so cool. So this is an escort romance between a billionaire and an escort, and it's very kinky, but it also was very sweet. And so there is sex in pretty much every chapter, so just know that this is erotic. It has some really good kinks in it, and I just love the negotiations in here. I love how their limits change and how they talk about it, and I just love that kind of story. So this one was right up my alley. I love that stuff. Alrighty, I think, let me double check here. I think that's it of the 4.5 stars. So now we're on to the 5-star reads. We are doing great here. Okay. So there was Bourbon Runaway by Walker Rose. This is a runaway bride romance. And this one is an interesting pairing. So she's about to marry and she finds out that her fiance cheated on her. And so she wants to leave him. And he's like, stop being an idiot. You have to marry me still. And he actually slaps her when she tells him no. Just in time for one of the wedding guests, who happens to be her high school boyfriend, who's died, his older brother, who is also injured the same night that his brother died. And so he has like a crippled leg. He walks with a cane most of the time, and he's a recluse. But he's come down his mountain basically to come to this wedding. And he sees this happen, and so he steps in. And she just is absolutely done with it. And so her sister brings her suitcase, and she jumps in the truck with him, and they actually go to his home, and she stays there for like the weekend to just like decompress and just be done with all of it. And they start to reconnect after all of these years and really kind of dissect what went down between like her and his brother and things like that way back when. This was an author I'd never read before, and this is the first book I've read by her. I think this is the second or third book in the series, but I'm very much looking forward to more. It was very good. All right, then we have one that's actually not romance, but it was one of the new releases that I read, and I enjoyed it so much, and that is Empire of the Damned by Jay Kristoff. This is his epic vampire series, and this is book 2 in the trilogy. And yeah, there's so much about this one. I won't even go into what this is about because maybe you don't care. But I listened to the audio. Highly recommend that if you read it, you listen to it. But it's very dark. It's grimdark fantasy. There's a lot of blood and guts and gore. But Jay Kristoff, y'all, he is a ride. All right, Undeniably Convenient by Jay Shaman, I don't know how to say this. This is the first in a new like medical series, and it's actually 2 doctors. I've never read a book by this author before, but it's very clear that she has a very rich and large backlist because every character you meet, you know that they have a romance or will. And this one is, our heroine is a surgeon, and she actually wants to have a baby. She has some medical issues that have kept her from having one. And then her ex didn't want to have kids. And she felt like she waited for him for so long because he had told her he wanted kids. And then when it was finally like, I need to do this if I'm going to do it, he like didn't want to. And so she's going to go forward with having one on her own. And then we have our hero who, honestly, same thing. He just got out of a marriage where he found out she was cheating on him with his best friend. If you'll notice the plot of these, it really reminds me of some Grey's Anatomy pairings that you might think of. But he's moved here, and he's now the head surgeon of her department. And he finds out that she wants to have a baby and that she's going to get a donor, and he really wants to be a dad. And his wife had led him on for so long that they would have a baby, and she actually didn't want one, and had said that she'd had, well, and he found out that she had her tubes tied without telling him. And that was the final straw, because he's like, not only did you lie to me, you didn't even tell me. It's like, it's your body, it's your choice, but she didn't even tell her husband that she did it because she knew he would be upset. And that is his right to be upset if the person he's planned his life with, changed the game without telling him. It's not that she still shouldn't have had her tubes tied if she wanted to, but as a partner in their relationship, he had the right to know that. So it was very, very tough for him. And so the point being, he decides that if she needs someone to be the father and she was just going to get donor sperm, he's like, well, I really want a kid. Let's have one together. So there we go. Then there is Homestead by Claire Kent. Yes, I don't have a copy of this yet. I'm so sad. This is book 7 in her apocalyptic romance series that is very sweet and cozy. I love it so much. This one is an arranged marriage, basically. It has a very historical vibes to it. This girl ends up paired up with this man. They're really the only couple like eligible ones in their little compound that they're in. Not even a compound, their little community they're in. And so she agrees to trade her body and her skills for his safety and protection. And I mean, that's what you do when you're in that situation. So I loved it. I love her book so much. I always will. Skies Over Caledonia by Samantha Young. This is book 4 in her Among the Thistles is like the first one. What's the series called? I don't know, but it's a Scotland series. Is it just called her Highland series? I don't know. This one is a marriage of convenience for a green card, and he is the like cousin to one of their connections. I don't know, but he's like transgent. I can't say that word. He is this relative of someone there that she knows. I can't talk anymore. Sorry, we've been talking for almost an hour. Holy shit. But anyway, they have a marriage of convenience so that she can stay in the country. And they decide, hey, we might as well have sex too. So it's great. the audiobook is what I listened to for this, and it was amazing. All right, then there is King of Sloth by Anna Huang. This one is a Playboy billionaire, and then his name is Javier. And then there is Sloane, who is a publicist, and she's supposed to help with his reputation. He ends up needing her help more than ever when his father dies and leaves a will that says if he doesn't become CEO of a company within 6 months, he will be cut out of said will. And they go about making that happen for him. This is probably my least favorite in the series, but it was still a 5-star read because I have given some of these books like 6 stars in this series. But there was just something about this one that, like, this was unbelievably long for what it was. It just was, let's be real. But it was still 5 stars. The audiobook was amazing for that one too. Not So Truly Yours by Julia Wolf. Are we surprised that this one is a 5-star? No, we're not. This is the last book in her Harder They Fall series. This is about Miles and Daisy, and she is a small entrepreneur who wants to make cupcakes and meat cups and cater events, and Miles works for a company who helps start startups and small businesses. And they had gotten off to a bad start before he meets her in a professional capacity, so she isn't sure she wants to work with him, but he challenges her and says, like, if you want someone to fight your side, you won't find anyone who can do it better than me. And so there's some fake dating that happens in this one. There's a slow burn. He's sunshine, she's grumpy. And I just really love this couple a whole lot. And I just love Julia Wolf. She's the bestest that there is. It's fantastic. She's wonderful. Then there is The Dixon Rule by L. Kennedy. This is book 2 in the Campus Diary series. And I have to say, I just found out that book 3 is going to be the last book in this series, and it's going to be an MMF, but I am devastated that there's only 3. Like, I thought this was a 2nd gen series. So far, we've only had 1 character who is even the kid of somebody, and there's only going to be 3? Like, are you fucking serious? Anyway, sorry. This book, I loved this one. This was a neighbors, enemies to fake dating with benefits to lovers. And I love these two. I feel like we really get to know them. Shane and Diana, I mean, not only are they like sexy as hell together, but they come to know each other so well. And I feel like she feels like she's over the top with the animosity in the beginning, but there's a lot of reasons she's like that. There's a lot of things she's heard about him and things she's seen him do where she thinks badly of him. He has been a playboy recently. He got out of a very long-term relationship and he was just kind of playing the field for a while, but he's realized that he's not a fuckboy. He's a boyfriend type of man. And so he really wants that again, but Diana, says she's not interested in it. Before they know it, they're basically dating. Their fake dating is basically dating. And I just loved watching it grow. This was wonderful, and it made me sob my eyes out at the end for reasons. Okay? It was wonderful. All right, then there is Her Villain by S.M. LaViolette. This is Minerva Spencer, by the way. I said she would show up again. I'm actually not going to go into too deep of detail about this one because the last 2 videos that I've done, I've also went in depth about this book. But this is a historical sex worker, romance, and an assassin. He is also a psychopath. And he hires her for a weekend and ends up keeping her forever. It's kinky. It is very dark in some aspects. It's very like angsty, and there is a lot of like dynamic play, but the way his brain works and the way that hers works were just, it was amazing. I love how S.M. LaViolette writes. It's fantastic. There is A Major Puck Up by Brittany Nicole. This one should just be coming out when this video does. I can't remember, or very soon after, but this is a dad's best friend. It starts as a one-night stand where she has hidden her identity, and then once he finds out who she is, he just can't stay away from her, and he feels very like guilty about that, but they just have such amazing chemistry. Fast forward a little ways, they actually have some troubles, and they're separated for a little while. So this one was interesting. It actually has a first act breakup, which I thought was an interesting choice. I will say, I liked that, being there instead of in the 3rd act. And it turns out that he's a father and he didn't know it. And now he's a single dad. And through some coincidences and some works of fate, she actually becomes the nanny to this new baby girl. And now they're forced to be around each other all the time and work on their problems. And this was very heartwarming. This teared me up more than I expected it to. And the love between these two, wow. I loved how it was proved that it was not just lust-based in this. I honestly felt they were meant to be together by the end of this one. And that's why this one got 5 stars. Even though it tried my patience, because when they broke up so early, it does take a while for them to get back together, but there's so much important stuff that happens in between. All right, now we get to the 6-star reads, which I actually only have 2. This year I've been a lot more tough on 6-star reads. I really have. And that's okay. It's absolutely fine. But going into midway through the year, and this is the least amount of 6 stars I've had so far, but I feel really good about the ones that are. So we have Wild Love by Elsie Silver. This one is a brother's best friend. It is a kind of childhood enemies to lovers, and by childhood enemies, like, we mean they teased each other, but they also kind of always had their eyes on each other and really had big feelings that they kept hidden. In this one, our hero finds that he's a dad in the beginning, but not from a woman that he slept with. He actually donated sperm when he was young, and a child who is a product of this is looking for a parent. And I won't explain why or any of that. It does take a bit of jumping the shark, and not everyone loved that, but I loved it because, and I say this every time I mention it, I loved it because there was no other woman drama. There's no previous girlfriend, previous woman. He's not a widower who's depressed about someone. There's literally a child, but no other woman. And I thought that was brilliant because we get to see him be a single dad. We get to see Rosie fall for him and them finally make something of their, you know, of this back and forth that they've had, and also getting to know this new girl who showed up in their lives without there being an other woman like trying to claw at them and everything. There's also a billionaire romance. He is trying to start his own record label, and she ends up working for him when she loses her job in the beginning. So it's forced proximity, small town, single dad. Yeah, I loved it. I do. I love Elsie Silver. I was worried there for a little bit, but I'm back. And then my favorite book of the last 40 books that were brand new that I read, because I've read more than these, is Cage of Ice and Echoes by Pam Godwin. And I'll tell you a little secret. She just shared with her ARC readers the cover of book 3. This one's not coming till August, so it's gonna be crazy. But anyway, this one's book 2 in the Frozen Fates trilogy, and I will not say much about this one at all. It starts with wow, did I just forget it? Hills of Shivers and Shadows, sorry. And it's very, very dark. So definitely check out my in-detailed review that has 2 levels of spoilers for the first book. And I said when I read that book that if this book pulled off some of the things that it promised, then both of them would be 6-star reads for me. And they are. So Hills of Shivers and Shadows was upgraded to a 6-star read for me, and this one is as well, because it continues. This one is very much has survival, and it also has a big mystery going on. There's 2 different kind of plot lines that are happening in this one, and they were both fantastic, and I am salivating, literally, I'm salivating for the final book to find out how it all plays out. So, whew, we're done. Do you guys feel okay? We are clocking in at just about an hour right now. So if you are excited about any of these books and you'd like to purchase them, I do have the links down below. Let me know if you agree with some of these for me. Let me know if there's some new releases that I missed that I should get on my list. And make sure you subscribe to this channel. I put up new videos 3 to 4 times a week. You should subscribe and you should watch through to see more. If you want more, I got it all for you. Thanks so much for watching, friends, and we'll see you next time. Bye.